let's learn how to configure our Azure Active Directory B2C tenant in order to create flows for our applications to authenticate against our B2C tenant. Okay, so when you already have created your B2C tenant, you will have something like this, right? I created this for demo purposes. So we see that we have this one which says the current domain name is ptidemo b2c.microsoft.com. The tenant type is production scale tenant. Okay, it's not linked to a subscription yet. Okay, and you see that it's an Azure AD B2C. Okay, now they give us a wizard or some recommendations on how to proceed. So first thing we can do is register an application, then register the identity providers, and then create a user flow. With that, our B2C tenant is ready for our applications to consume it and authenticate against it. For those of you who don't know, one of the main characteristics of the Azure AD B2C is that it allows us to authenticate with external providers such as Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Google, and other providers which uses OpenID Connect. But it kind of centralizes everything, so instead of have authentication against each of those providers, we will only authenticate against our Azure AD B2C, and the B2C will be in charge of authenticate against the other providers behind the scene. Okay, so let's start. We go to applications. Okay, I'll create one application. Name it demo B2C Auth. I am going to create a web application later on, so I put yet. I am going to leave the well, this one with placeholder because I still don't have the application created. So I don't know the actual port where we are going to redirect. Then I click create. Okay, so our application is here, already created. Okay, we can also do it in the app registration preview within the registration, and you see that the one I created is already here. And if we go see it here, we see that it has a bit more of information that it shows us, and it tells us, okay, the redirect URLs, we have one configured, we have the application ID URI, which is often uses to for authentication from mobile devices. We have here the different endpoints, so we see that here it shows us the OAuth 2.0 token endpoint for the version 2. We have the authorization endpoint, we have the logout endpoint, the OpenID Connect configuration endpoint, we have the SAML metadata, and the Microsoft Graph API endpoint. Okay, so now what I am going to do is I am going back to the main menu, and I am going to configure the identity providers. Okay, so one of the things we need to do is choose which identity provider we need. So we will choose Facebook, for example. We see that here we have the origin URL, we have the callback URL, we have a name, client ID, and a client secret. Okay, so this is the name I want to name the identity provider configuration. The client ID is the client ID that we get from registering our application in Facebook, in the developers page, and the secret is the secret for that. Okay, if you have never done that, you can go to developers.facebook.com. We will go to my apps. I am going to create an application. Okay, I'll tell it that I am not a robot. Okay. So yeah, I'll create an application. I think I didn't create it. Okay, there it is. It was just taking a while. Okay, so I'll tell you that I want to set the login. Sorry, this page actually showed up in Spanish. Let's see if I can change the language easily around here. Okay, so I don't see a quick menu where to change the language. Okay, doesn't matter. So I'll go to configure here, or actually go to products to do the wizard. I'll find for the one which says in English something like login. So I'll click on configure or setup. I'll tell you that I want to set up a web. Okay, the URL for my site, it should be, if I remember correctly, the URL for the B2C that we have set up. So you'll see that some of this we have the redirect URL. It will be the one with the B2C login. Okay, so let's go back to the other application we were creating. Let's continue with this. Since I went out from it, the wizard didn't finish. So basically what we need to do here is actually just copy here the URL that we are going to get from here. We see that in here we have the callback URL. This is the URL we need to write in here. And let's save that. Okay. Um, the enter an identity provider name. So what I like to do is just name it the same as the application I created in Facebook, for example. So it says PTI demo B2C. So I am going to set that name to PTI demo B2C. Okay. Now I am going to the application configuration, and I'll get this application identifier, and I will set it as the client ID. Okay. And I'll show the application the secret. I'll copy it and I will paste it here. And just like that, our identity provider, it's already configured. So now the next thing we are going to do is creating a flow. So I'll create new user flow. We have some recommended user flows here: sign up and sign in, profile editing, password reset. We have some which are in preview, and we have the possibility to see all of them. So let's see. Now I am going to go to preview, and I am going to use this one, sign up and sign in, and version 2. Okay. Sign up, sign in. Yeah. Actually, yeah. Sign up, sign in. You can put any name that you like there, but I usually like to name it very similar to what their purpose is or what they are going to do. So we check which providers we are going to let him use, and if we want to configure multi-factor authentication or not. The other thing that we can do is set up which fields we are going to request to the user. So let's request the given name, the country region, the email address. If we click show more, you see that we will see a lot of other stuff there. So we can add like the street address, the postal code, the job title. Okay, and all that. And we can also configure which claims are going to be retrieved for our application to track. So we are going to track the country or region. We are going to track the list of email addresses if he or she has more. You're going to track the given name or collect given name. We are going to collect the job title. We are going to collect if the user is new or not, and the object ID. And let's do that. We click create, and our user flow is already been created. We see that we have here, this is the name we set up, this is the type of the flow, and this is the flag for the multi-factor authentication, which is disabled because we didn't check. Okay, so we see that if we click on it, we see this couple of options. We see the properties, the identity providers, the user attributes, the application claims, pretty much everything that we just set up. And we have this nice option which says run user flow. It basically allows you to run the user flow directly from the Azure B2C, so you can check that everything works okay before you even go to your application for testing. So we see that in here we have this user flow, and if we click on it, we see JSON JSON formatted text, which has the information for the configuration. We have the user, the endpoint, token endpoint, authorization endpoint, the end session endpoint. We have the claims that we are going, the claim supported. So that's that information. Also, we see that in here it has the application that this user flow is going to test. We have the reply URL. We have some access token information there, which currently is disabled, and we have the user flow endpoint. This URL, it's basically the URL we are going to redirect and where the Azure AD B2C is going to do its magic. So you see it says demo B2C, B2C login.com, in this other domain that we set up. Okay, it sends the name for the flow, it says the client ID and all that information. Okay, and it also has the redirect URL, which basically is the URL that the flow is going to redirect after it finishes. So it's where your application will be listening for the response from the A2C from the Active Directory B2C, and where it can proceed for the actions after the user has been denied or approved for authentication. So let's run the user flow. We see that since I already have the I already connected it to my Facebook account, it says it shows me this instead of showing me the login. If I were not logged in Facebook, it will show me first the screen to login in Facebook, and then it will request for my permissions. So if I click edit, I can see what is being collected. So it says that the name, my picture is actually required. My email address, I can choose for yes or no, right? So I'll just continue, and it redirects me to the rest of the user flow. So if you notice the URL, we are actually out of the application. We have already navigated to the Active Directory B2C URL. So I don't know, let's say that I live in US. Okay, and let's see, something like that. Okay, we click continue. Okay, and yeah, we get this error because you see that the Azure Active Directory B2C is actually trying to redirect to our application. If you remember when we configured our um, our application, we set up a return URL where I said that I didn't have the port or anything, and currently I'm not even running the application. So after you run the flow, the Active Directory B2C will try to redirect to the application. In this case, it tries to redirect to the local host in port 5555 uh, to the sign-in dash OIDC. And if you see there, it sends all the information that it has, like it needs for verified to the application that it has already been authenticated. So it sends the ID token, right, where it is something you can actually store, and then it will have the claims and everything, so you can get them and persist them in your application. Okay, so in this case that happens just because I am not even running the application, which is okay. But if we now go to our Azure Active Directory B2C and we go to users, we see that we actually have a new user being created, a new user created here, and you will see that it says its source was Facebook. So that's how you authenticate, or how you create um, the basis for your authentication with Azure AD B2C. So this video is going to end here. The next part of the video will be, or the next part of the tutorial will be showing you how to authenticate to the Azure AD B2C from within an application in .NET Core 3.1. But we are going to do that in another video. Just wait for it. Thank you very much. I hope you have liked it and that it has been useful to you.